Hi Wendy, I'm just doing a quick video for you as a general overall sort of feedback to go by for your assignment. I will do another video after this one more in detail after sort of reading your assignment a bit more thoroughly. But firstly, I just wanted to give you this one. This is something you can apply to basically any assignment. It is quite general. I have got your assignment up on the screen as well, and I'm going to use that as to give you some examples of what I'm talking about. I'll also upload this written assignments guide that I've got over here. I'll just sort of touch it up a little bit and upload that for you, or email it to you, so you've got access to that and you can use it for future assignments as well. Basically, where I want to start is when we actually get our assignment task sheet, and I'll just bring that one up. What I like to do is go through and highlight the main words that are sort of describing what the task is going to be for the assignment. So I'll get my assignment task sheet and I'll go through and I'll highlight words like identify, analyze. You might get ones that say to compare and contrast, or describe, or critically appraise, or all of these different words. So I go through and I pull out the keywords and highlight them, so I'm clear with what it is that they're actually asking me to do. If they say to outline something and you go into detail to describe it, then that's, it's not actually doing what the task has asked you to do. So it's really important to make sure that those keywords you're familiar with, you're comfortable with what that means in terms of writing an assignment. So by highlighting them and pulling them out, it gives you that to go by. And obviously what it is they're actually asking you to apply those keywords to. So in terms of the toxicology assignment, we have the principles of toxicology, which is all of the things that you would have done through the lecture, the toxicokinetics, dynamics, the mechanisms of action, all of that type of thing, exposure, risk characterization and management. So it's very general, this assignment. It's not really asking a question as such, so it is a little bit trickier to do, but looking at it from the other side is that it actually gives you quite a lot of room to play around with what's relevant for your topic, and that's why they've done it like this. If they make it too specific, it doesn't apply to every topic that people choose. So it is a positive in that you do have room to play around, as long as you're addressing the main task requirements, which if you go through the rubric, that is where you would want to make sure that you're addressing them, because that's what they essentially use to mark you. So what they're actually saying here, and I think this is quite important, they've been very pedantic in your assignment brief in this thing compared to mine, and they've quite plainly stated how they wanted it to be set out, which they didn't do when I did this assignment. So clearly they want it to be structured in a certain way that makes it easier to write, but also easier to mark. So, and mechanisms here is another big thing that they want addressed in here. It's not just talking about the fact that it does have an action, it's how does it have that action? What receptors are being targeted by that agent? What is that receptor binding actually happening? What biochemical cascade happens as a result of that agent being in the body, and how does the body deal with it? So it is quite detailed what they want at a biochemical cellular level, especially with something like St. John's, because it is a therapeutic agent as well. So that is something that they want you to clearly sort of talk about. And when you look at those highlight words that I've got here, the mechanisms of the toxicokinetics and toxicodynamics that are about causing harm to the body. So even though St. John's is a therapeutic agent as well, which clearly you are going to have to identify in the assignment, it is asking for those mechanisms that it causes harm, which essentially is probably going to be, like I said in the email, the contraindications with other medications and the way that can have deleterious effects on the body. So you've chosen your topic. I'm presuming you've got your okay from your lecturer. That's all great. Obviously, they want it in an essay format: introduction, body, conclusion. In the introduction, to clearly identify. So it's basically just stating what it is that you've chosen to do your assignment on, which agent. And if I just quickly skip down, they've got more detail down here about the introduction, and this is something I've got similar on my academic writing guide. Basically, when you're writing, I'll just find it, when you're writing an introduction, a really good rule to go by is to introduce your topic and then quickly outline or cover what the rest of the assignment is going to talk about in regards to that topic in the order that they actually are written in the assignment. So, for example, if you were to introduce St. John's and then in a few sentences talk about the issues surrounding St. John's that are relevant in terms of the toxicology principles in the order that you've written them in. And basically that's what your introduction should be. So if I just go back up the top here and quickly just pull yours up. So first of all, cover page too. That was another thing that they said, that they wanted a cover page, which you did have. One tip that I found really helped me was if you make your cover page beautiful and presented in such a way that it looks like you've put effort into it, which doing this does not take a lot of effort, it sets a theme, and it's like, first impressions. But they open your file and they see that, and automatically they're impressed, and that will carry throughout the rest of the assignment. So I believe personally that it is worth going to that little bit of extra effort, which I'll quickly show you here. It does not take a lot of effort at all to do, to get something looking like this as a cover sheet, for instance. And this is just one I've just randomly picked. There's lots of different ones in Word. I'm not sure about Apple, what program you're using. I'm presuming it's Word, but it is quite easy to do. In case you don't know, you may very well already know how to do this, but it would basically, on your document, you would just go straight up to insert, and you would insert cover page, and it comes down with all of the different types of cover pages. I play around with, like, they've got preset text in there. I just play around with that, delete what I don't want and add what I do want, and just sort of, move them around, change the font and whatever to make it look how I believe is presentable. So it's worth going to that effort quickly to do that for your cover page. Make sure you've got the details, all the details that they specifically stated on the assignment brief, which is everything that we've got here. And this is just an example. You can use this one if you want to. I will send it to you, but it's completely up to you which one you use. So going back to how we are writing an assignment. So after you've done your introduction, then talk about, depending on how you want it to flow, I like to tell a story. So I like to start with setting the scene of what's going to happen for the rest of the assignment, and then going from there. And I feel that it flows better. So when your marker is reading it, there isn't this jumping from one thing to another. It just, to make it easy for the marker to read and easy for them to see where you've answered the questions or addressed the requirements of the assignment, means that they're going to mark you better. It's just human psychology, the way it works. The easier you make it, the clearer it is for them, the more marks you will get. It'll be a pleasure for them to read, in quotation marks, pleasure. So that is another key point that I always made sure I did, and I did get quite a lot of those comments for that reason. So the other things that they want you to talk about in this one, obviously, we've got exposure, dose response, margins of safety, antidotes if it's relevant. Any of this stuff that could be relevant to St. John's, you want to sort of make sure that you do include to some degree. And really important to make sure that any tables, figures, diagrams or flowcharts are of your own compilation, so they're not just cut and pasted or copied and pasted, and also that they're referred to in the body of your text, which they do state down here. Just find where I had it. Yeah. So it's really important to make sure that if you do have any type of figure, table, graph, picture, whatever, that you're referring to it in the text. Not just saying, see figure 1, you're actually referring to it in terms of its relevance as well. So as shown in figure 1, the effects of St. John's is blah, blah, blah. You need to make sure it's contextual. So as detailed in this table, or as table 1 details, or whatever the relevant terms are, but you need to make sure that you're referring to it in context and why it's relevant. And then if you can't do that, then obviously it's not really necessary to put in there. And don't create extra work for yourself just for the hope of getting some higher marks, because it could actually backfire and you could get marked down for not correctly referring to an inclusion like a table or a figure appropriately in the body of your text. The other thing, just make sure that you're addressing what the actual marking rubric states for each part. And then, as a conclusion, just to highlight or summarise. So that's all pretty straightforward. Make sure it is obviously Arial 11. I think you've done that. I quickly had a look and it looked all fine in terms of the actual presentation. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So that's all fine. Now I'll just quickly bring up yours, and this is an assignment general guide that I do use. When you're writing an assignment, this is something that you can sort of use to just keep yourself on track. This diamond shape of whole essay is something, I think it's come from another university, but it is actually available on LibGuides, I think it is. And it shows you, basically gives you a detailed outline about how to write academically. This is my version. I've taken their little picture here and I've just sort of added what I do. And once again, my writing style may be different to someone else's, so how I write may not necessarily be suitable for everyone, but it is a good guide to go by. And there are some key points in this that will really help to make sure that you are keeping on track with how you're writing in terms of keeping to the assignment task. So this diamond structure is just I guess it's a visual depiction of how to look at it. The introduction is something that introduces the topic, states what's going to be covered, and the structure outlines the structure. So it's stating what's going to be covered in the order that it will be covered within the body. Every paragraph, basically, that you do have in your body of the assignment should be comprised of a topic sentence that introduces what's going to be talked about in the paragraph, and then an evidence sentence which provides any research or evidence or reasons that support that initial topic sentence, and then a concluding sentence or two that summarizes the whole paragraph. That basic structure there keeps your paragraphs on track and makes your writing concise. And I know you mentioned that you had the issue of not having enough words. It can also help to make sure that you have actually addressed everything you need to, and you haven't just been too general with some things. So it's just a really good checking tool to use. So every single paragraph throughout the body of your assignment, you can use that body paragraph structure there. And then in the conclusion, you basically repeat the initial topic, summarize each one of those paragraphs. So even just a sentence or two, summarizing all of the paragraphs, what was basically concluded in each paragraph, and then restates your initial topic or your thesis or your idea that you had according to the support of that, or if it was against that. So the conclusion is really just a summary. A few key things that I like to do is make sure that the reader only needs to read the first line of each paragraph to actually know where you're going with it. It should clearly provide a direction for the reader so they can read it and know where you're going. When I'll just quickly move down here, whenever you have written a paragraph, you can go back and you can sort of do a little checklist and say to yourself, okay, did I actually answer the question that was required of me? So did I introduce the topic? Did I provide evidence or information about that? And then did I conclude? And if you use that diamond structure in the red here to apply that to each paragraph after you've written it, you'll be able to really refine it down and make sure you're doing it properly. And the other thing, this key point here is something that I really, really believe works, is that if you reword the questions of your task sheet in your essay, so this is a little bit different toxicology assignment, but in general, a really good way to make it easy for the marker to see where you've answered questions is to reword the question as your answer. It just makes them, as academics, they don't have to think as much. They don't have to sit there and extract information from your assignment to see if you've addressed the task or answered the questions, because basically that is what your assignment is meant to do, is provide that information. They shouldn't have to extract it. So the easier you make it for them to see where you've answered the questions by restating the question but in your own words, the more marks you'll get. It is quite simple, but very effective. And just read through your assignment once you've done it and ask yourself, were the questions that were asked of me answered? And just see if you can identify where they were answered and if it was clear to you or if it's ambiguous. So just some little general tips you can apply to basically any assignment that are going to sort of help you, I guess, get as many marks as you can, but also giving you that extra confidence. And they are simple things to do, very effective. So I'm going to leave it there for this video, and then I'll do another one going into more detail in terms of your actual assignment that you've written, the second draft you've sent me through. And I am sorry once again, Wendy, about the delay in this. I know it's due tomorrow, so I will get this one up for you hopefully first thing in the morning. It's quite late now, before I have to finish moving, and I hope that it's helped to some degree. But I'll send you through another one soon, and have a good night.